All right, well then we're going to go ahead and get going with everyone. We've got a lot of ground to cover. For those of you that I do not know, my name is Wally Leasure. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for the Americas from Algo. And Brent, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Name's Brent Mosley. I'm the Director of Supply Chain at Flowco.
Excellent. And from an agenda standpoint today, we're going to talk a little bit about Flowco and Flogistix. Brent's going to give you a little sneak peek of what they do. They do some amazing stuff, and they've got some great vertical integration, which is really, really exciting, and they continue to grow and expand in their market. We're going to talk a little bit, and I'll let Brent talk a little bit about kind of the background with NetSuite and what the kind of business vision continues to be for his business. Talk about the Intuiflow journey. So Brent, went to the market. It was a competitive environment. There's a lot of solutions out in the marketplace around supply chain and planning. We'll talk a little bit about why he selected us and what he was looking for. We're going to talk about the results. So Brent and his organization, with a combination of initiatives, had some incredible results. And it's really, really exciting. And they continue to see results with Intuiflow for NetSuite. I'm going to talk a little bit about our simulation process, and that's something that Brent and I went through when he was out shopping in the market a couple years back, and we can talk a little bit about what that looks like from the Algo side. And then if we got some time, we'll do some Q&A, see if there's something that you want to ask Brent and see if he can shine some light on. Okay? All right, so with that, Brent, I'll go ahead and let you talk a little bit about Flowco.
Sure. So Flowco is a combination of multiple different companies here recently. So January of last year, Flowco went public with our IPO, January of last year. And within that, there's 3 different companies. So we have Estes, which is high pressure compression, Flogistix, vapor recovery, and Flowco, which is another company that we settled on the name on, another company called Flowco that does artificial lift. So, and as Wally just mentioned, we just did an acquisition of Valiant, which is a submersible pumps company. So we're growing very fast, and it's been a journey for sure the last year, but it's all good. So maybe Wally, just real quick on that flare. I see you see the flare there. So
that would be great.
People always ask, what does Flogistix do? So I'm in the part of the company of Flogistix. So Flogistix is vapor recovery, and what that vapor recovery means is you see that flare there. That flare is actually trash gas or flash gas, what they call it. Flogistix actually captures that trash gas or that flash gas and eliminates the flare or the venting, and turns that gas into a revenue line for other oil and gas companies.
It is amazing. Yeah, I think about sometimes just the exposure that I'm very lucky to have with all of the great manufacturers that we work with. And it just shocks me sometimes that you drive down the road and that someone at some point said, you know what, we're going to capture that gas and we're going to turn it into a revenue stream. Really, really cool. And then Brent, how about a little bit more background on Flogistix specifically?
Sure. So at Flogistix specifically, we have one manufacturing facility, which is located in El Reno, Oklahoma. Massive campus. We have 80 acres. 40 acres of that 80 is concrete. Massive campus that we have here. We have 15 field service offices and approximately 8,000 units out in the field. So up and running. 99% of these units are running in the U.S. Most everything we do is domestic. We are trying to break into the international field. But as you can see there, 25 million metric tons of CO2 that we've captured instead of releasing that into the air. So not only are we in the oil and gas space, we are also in the environmentally friendly side of the oil and gas space. We have here that we have 350 customers. Another unique thing that Flogistix has is we have service technicians that service these our units out in the field. So we have a rental fleet and a sold fleet. Most of our fleet is rental, because those of you guys in the oil and gas business know that pressures change over time at a oil site, oil well, and as those change, it requires a different size of a unit. So a lot of customers rent from us and they exchange in and out. But one of the things we have 350 technicians out in the U.S. at any given time every day, servicing and maintaining our units. Things like changing oil on our compressors. Servicing engines, electric and gas-driven engines. And we pride ourselves on uptime. We're in the 98% uptime runtime. So if you have one of our units, we pride ourselves in, if it goes down, someone's going to be out there addressing that issue. We do have telemetry as well, so we can tell from our cell phone if a unit is running hot, not running, starting and stopping too often. We can actually tell how good the oil is. Right? We can say, hey, this thing's due for an oil change because your viscosity isn't right. So
really, really amazing stuff. Yeah, and part of Brent's complexity as well is that those technicians and the trucks that he's talking about out in the field, right? They're carrying inventory, right? So for those of you on the call, right, try to imagine that you've got 350 rolling small warehouses that you're also trying to keep tabs on. So really, really interesting stuff. And then Brent, I know this is something you guys are really, really proud of. Can you talk a little bit about just the in-house manufacturing capabilities within Flogistix?
Yeah, absolutely. We are very much so vertically integrated. And, as you see these other acquisitions that we make as well, it kind of fulfills our portfolio of what we're trying to get into in the oil and gas business. But at Flowco, this is Flogistix. I'm sorry, Flogistix specifically. We have two buildings here at this on site here, and then we have a one awning yard, which we have pipe and things like that sitting on. But we have all of your machining capabilities. We actually have a pipe profiler. There's not a whole lot of people that say they have a pipe profiler. We have a pipe profiler in house, shot blast, laser blast as well. We are ASME certified. So we're ASME certified. We're also UL certified. So you see some of the panel shop down here in the bottom. We actually do our own panels, electronic panels in-house. We do fabrication, these bottles that you see in the fabrication shop there. We do all the welding, as again, we're ASME certified. So we are a certified shop. We vertically integrate everything. We buy the parts and make it into something. We don't buy a whole lot of finished components.
Awesome. Super, super cool. And then something else kind of focused on the Flogistix side, Brent, can you give people maybe this, top left on my screen, how big are these pieces of equipment and about how long does it take you to put one of them together?
Yeah, so the top left one is one of our larger units that we make. We do make one just a little bit larger than that, but this is a standard unit. That unit is 12 by 20 skid. So for size wise, you can tell that that's a very large skid. It takes us approximately 2 weeks to make one of these from start to finish. That's including building the bottles and again, vertically integrated. So we kind of stage our product in a manner that, we're building the bottles 2 weeks, early before we, start the assembly process. And the skid itself, we actually make the skid in-house as well. Again, a welded skid. These units weigh, the one on the top left weighs about 30,000 pounds when it's done. Okay. We do have some units that are upwards of 55,000 pounds on the large side. If you go over to the top one on the right, for a size perspective, that's a 4x6 skid. So anywhere from 7.5 horsepower to 300 horsepower is standard for us, and that's again gas-driven engines or electric engines. All the ones pictured here are electric engines, but we do gas-powered engines with Caterpillar, Cummins engines, GM motors on these skids as well.
Incredible. All right, so then Now for the group, right? So awesome background about what it is you guys deal with and what you see. So talk to us a little bit about, what is the reality of running the supply chain for Flogistix? And maybe you can go through some of the stuff that keeps you awake at night, or maybe used to keep you up even more. So if you talk to
Yes.
us about that.
Yeah, sure. So, as it says here, we have a little over 17,000 SKUs. And if you think about the pictures you saw before, there's four primary units. We have the gas and electric. So, there's only 10 or 12 options really that we offer. We do custom stuff as well, but it's primarily fits on those 8, 12 different options that we have. But since we're vertically integrated, we purchase all the little bitty parts, and put them together. One of the issues that we realized that we had was, you have all these items, they have different lead times. There's no true reporting. Again, large BOMs, you have it on here, 1,500 items on a BOM. And that's several items. Then you add in the complications of the field service with your 15 different field service sites, trying to keep the inventory straight and aligned at those sites as well. You can imagine spreadsheets is our friend, or was our friend. We had, and I'm sure everybody's like this. I've been doing this for 25 years, and everywhere I've worked is, we got a spreadsheet for that. So we're trying to eliminate that. And each of these sites had individual planning strategies, right? Every single person, we had a planner. We weren't really centralized. Everybody kind of did their own thing. If you're out in Texas, you bought from this vendor. If you're in Oklahoma, you bought from this vendor. And
Sure.
it was kind of the Wild West, I guess I would say.
Yes, spreadsheets continue to be our number one competitor. It's amazing that the spreadsheet supply chain tools that are out in the market, and we see some amazing ones that people have developed and come up with. Really, really helpful background. And then Brent, let's talk a little bit about NetSuite, and maybe the NetSuite experience.
Yeah, so NetSuite itself, is a great tool, for as a primary, system of record, that integrates your, accounting, finance, engineering, production, parts. But there are things that are very unique in NetSuite or any ERP system. I guess I wouldn't really just even say NetSuite. I'm familiar with multiple different ones over the years. One of the things that you run into is, you know, being able to scale something in a way that everyone understands, it's consistent, and being able to see all the signals at one in one place, right? You run into, again, spreadsheets. Not everybody shares spreadsheets with everybody, so one person may have a spreadsheet doing this, another person has it doing that, and they're all really trying to get to the same point of, what do I need to order, what do I need to open work orders for, and that causes problems within the business whenever you're talking to different people, because one person's doing it one way, another person's doing it another way, and it's not due to lack of training or anything. It's just a matter of how someone perceives the data or wants to use the data. There's nothing consistent in NetSuite alone from a supply chain standpoint, that allows you to see performance issues. Like, for instance, right? You can run a shortage report, sure, but does it prioritize what's important? What do you need to address first? Many people know, you can run an exception report and you have 700 exception messages. Where do you start?
Right.
This is something that Intuiflow will actually address for you, in your customization requirements, right? You always have to find someone that understands NetSuite enough to create a report for you or do something in NetSuite Analytics.
Sure.
And that costs time, that costs money, and there's a lot of, again, time, working with someone. Usually if you're working with someone in NetSuite, they know They know how the system works, but they don't know exactly what you want. Intuiflow allows you, it kind of already answers the question. They've gone through and said, this is what the gap is that has been identified in NetSuite that people need help with. You can see your inventory reports, you can see your burn down, you can see your exception messages, you can see um, uh, your demand, you can see line of balances. They have an S&OP portion. Um, you can see BOMs, easily see BOMs with your on-hand quantity, with your, on-hand quantity, demand, and open purchase orders, and where there's gaps. Uh, Readily available in Intuiflow.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the stuff that you deal with, continue to deal with, and then what you were dealing with in the past, it's just incredible. So talk to us a little bit, Brent, about, what were the priorities when you went into the market? So I know you came into the role to kind of champion and create an S&OP process. You identified that, hey, look, we've got some gaps here for what I'm envisioning from a supply chain standpoint. Talk to us a little bit about what were your big hitters when you were shopping.
Sure. So I started a little over 2 years ago here, and my role was a newly created role, and there was a it was identified that we had issues around S&OP. We had no real S&OP process. Our process at the time was in January, we will load a forecast and we'll just let that forecast run for the whole year. And you just buy to that. We don't change it. We don't review it. You just buy to those parts. So you can imagine, you're forecasting something today for December. If things change, we never changed it. It's just like, this is what we have. This is what we built. And customers would come to us and say, can you build a different unit? No, we didn't plan for that. So we can't adjust. We can't adjust accordingly. After I started, we stood up an S&OP process. We now meet once a month. We have a 12-month rolling forecast. We adjust that forecast. We do lock our forecast. We try to lock our forecast. I say that. People probably think I'm crazy.
Sure.
We try to lock our forecast for 90 days, right? And not change it, which will give us, a lock schedule. It gives us tools to help us make the right decisions. Where we need to order parts, what work orders we need to open, and give us insight to where gaps may be. We didn't have any visibility into. Again, we could run the NetSuite out of the box report. Show me my exception messages. And again, whenever someone looks at exception messages, if it's telling you change it 2, 3, 4 days, that's you start looking at exception messages. That's usually what it's telling you.
Right.
You have to ignore. You want to ignore those because 2, 3, 4 days isn't going to make a difference. There was, and when we were previously running it, we just load that forecast, and it was just you could go buy the part. You could buy all the parts for the entire year and not do anything else, just to expedite parts, or try to call a supplier and say, I want to cancel this and I want to order this instead.
Right.
And it was very difficult. So with Intuiflow, now we have a single source of truth. So anybody can go into Intuiflow. You can see the line of balance. You can see what's on order. You can see what the recommendations are. You can see if buyers are, not that I check on everybody, but you can see what is out there that needs to be purchased, how long it's been out there. So you can ask the questions, why hasn't this been ordered?
Right.
And it helps us improve, responsiveness. You can see it in a more informed dashboard through Intuiflow. It gives you, I think later on we'll see some slides with some red, yellow, green kind of colors, which really helps on your priority. So after we did the got away from the 12-month forecast and started moving to the new S&OP process, that's when we realized, hey, there's a gap in trying to understand what's important, what's not important. So why Intuiflow? It's our next
Yeah,
slide
there
here.
you go. Yeah, good segue. I like that. Yeah, so awesome. And then yeah, we'll show a little bit of screen with the dynamic color and the planners workbench with the buffer penetration, all that good stuff. But yeah, Brent, so talk to us a little bit about, so you went shopping in the marketplace. I know it was very competitive. It was us and a handful of other vendors and suppliers. And I think you kind of had some big hitters here that helped us to win your business and earn your business and continue to partner with you. So maybe you could touch on a couple of these for the group.
Right. So one of the biggest things that we liked about Intuiflow was the integration into NetSuite. Um, Again, I've worked at other places where we had to provide flat files and data from an IT team, and that cost is very impactful to implementation and um, maintaining systems and being able to provide that data on a consistent basis. With Intuiflow, it's an in-suite software. So what happens is we give Intuiflow access to log into our system, and I want to sound like a computer and be like bleep 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 bleep. All the information
Very
kind of
good.
shows up and says, "Hey, here's some things you should probably look at." Um, there was a lot of uh, data that needed to be cleaned up, because again, we didn't use NetSuite like it should be used correctly. Having your vendors, your vendor set up, your primary vendors, your lead times. Dates do matter, and again, it's another one of those. Of course, always, your Intuiflow or NetSuite is only going to work as good as the data.
Right.
Intuiflow does a very good job walking through and helping with doing the implementation and saying, "Hey, this doesn't look right. This thing says it has a 700-day lead time. Is that right?" You'd be
Right.
like, "No, I never even realized that. It was set up like that." And you're like, well, how do we fix it, right? So go through, and again, it's a very simple process with Intuiflow, because they can gather that information and already pull it into their system, and give you the garbage in, garbage out right up front, and you can immediately start working on correcting that data and using Intuiflow.
Right.
Um, you can also, the simulation. So one of the things that we like, with the simulation results, whenever you load your forecast, you can go and say, well, what would it be if I added 10 more of these into 10 more of these units into the schedule in 3 months? You can put a simulation in and say add 10 units and not even affect NetSuite. A lot of times what people do is someone will go and open a work order for 10, let MRP run, and all these demand signals go all over the place, and the buyers don't know what to do.
Right.
Is this real or is this just a simulation? You can simulate in Intuiflow with your upload, your forecast upload. You can adjust that forecast totally separate from NetSuite, and you can run that without even running MRP.
Right.
So that's a very big bonus. So in the ability to scale as well, we're already working with other locations, that we've acquired to implement Intuiflow because of the results that we've had, and we're all on NetSuite. So implementing this across the board will help us again synergize with the with the overall company, that we're heading, in one direction. So whenever we see a screen or we see signals, we all understand where they're coming from. Um, you can also see the inventory at other locations. It's easy to see what inventory you have at other locations. Should you transfer it instead of purchase it? These are little things that Intuiflow will allow you to see that standard NetSuite does not allow you to see. So,
Right.
and you can also create, I don't think we're going to get into the demo, but like we talked earlier, no demo, but just from a perspective, you can actually create purchase orders and create work orders straight from Intuiflow,
Yeah.
and transfer orders.
Yeah.
So, there's no going back and forth. I looked in my system. Now I got to go into NetSuite and create the transfer order. You can create the transfer order right in NetSuite, and it happens instantly in NetSuite too. I say instantly within, I don't know, I think 1 minute.
Yeah.
After you create a purchase order, that purchase order is created in NetSuite. So NetSuite is still the system of record, but you can use Intuiflow to make decisions quicker and easier.
Yeah, and a lot of our clients in the NetSuite space, that's the biggest win I think that we hear is because we are a native NetSuite solution, meaning for any end user, the Intuiflow product is simply a tab in your NetSuite instance. So there is no integration sequence, anything like that. And then like Brent mentioned, so we are item location specific. So if you're doing some sort of an analysis of an item at a location and you wanted to create some sort of a supply order on the fly, as we would call it, you can do that from that screen. As opposed to doing it from the list on the accept recommended orders page. But again, all of that is available within our native NetSuite product, which again, lower barrier to entry from a solution standpoint. And then Brent, just this is a snapshot of the actual project timeline when we did the Flogistix implementation. If you could just run us through this here real quick and
Sure.
then see any comments there.
Yeah. So as you can see, very quick implementation time. We started, we kicked off in June and we were live in December. What more can I say? I've been parts, and not only was this go live, we were using Intuiflow and seeing results immediately. And I think we have some slides about some of the results that we've seen just in the short amount of time that we were using it. So you can see service levels. We improved our service levels 5%. Because we didn't have visibility. If you asked me what my service level was before Intuiflow, I couldn't tell you. I would say, yeah, we're doing pretty good. And this improvement again is, this was after we already started Intuiflow. This was after we, started cleaning up data and doing different things, implemented Intuiflow.
Right.
I could tell you this 5% is after we started with Intuiflow. This wasn't. Beforehand. I'd probably tell you our service levels were probably in the 60-70% range,
Wow.
if that, before we started with Intuiflow.
Wow. Yeah, then talk to us a little bit about the inventory, because I think that was another big win, for you and the Intuiflow selection, maybe moving into this pull-based, DDMRP-based replenishment. So talk to us a little bit about this.
Yeah. So one of the really cool things about Intuiflow is that it will instantly tell you what you have too much of, what you're overstocked on, what you're understocked on, and it's color coded. So you can, if you're in Excel, be like, if everybody likes Excel, right? Or Pages, I guess, but I don't know why anybody would use Pages, but Excel. One of the nice things about Intuiflow is you can dump things right into Excel, right out of Intuiflow if you still like to use your spreadsheets. One of the things I like to do, put into Excel, is share with my team, and they can see it as well. But I like reinforcing the subject, right, of excess orders, right. Intuiflow will look at it and say, you have way too much of this inventory and you have some on order.
Right.
Why? Right? These are the orders that you need to attack, because all you're going to do is increase inventory more and more, which then drives us to say, right, I don't know why I have that on order. Or is there a bill of material issue? Is there some other issue that needs to be addressed? So not only does it help with the inventory perspective in adjusting in identifying excess, obsolete, or need of immediate inventory, it also gives you a view into like your previous ordering patterns, right? Why are we ordering 5,000 of these when we already have 10,000 on hand and we use 3,000 a year, right? And so it drives questions, and internally, it's a tool for us to identify those items and be like, hey, we're using a whole bunch of these, but it only says we need 1,000. I mean, we're ordering 5,000. Why are we ordering 5,000? It's like, well, we've used 5,000. Like,
Right.
no, it only says we've used this, and then it goes like, oh, it's a BOM error. It's you can visually see these things right off the bat, and you can really hone in on them. So yeah, and
Yeah, and
just real
I
quick
guess
on that last bullet point, I just wanted to touch on that. That's
yeah,
a really important one.
it's a big one.
So
It's a big one.
we went live in July. I'm sorry, we went live in December, but we started in July, so that was 6 months. And here we are now in March, and we've already reduced our inventory by now $6 million.
Wow.
So $6 million, and you say, well, that's not a lot. Well, we only have $15 million of inventory. So it's not like I have $100 million of inventory that I'm trying to manage, and there's just a whole lot of excess out there. So,
Yeah.
$5-6 million on $15 million is a whole lot different story than $5 million on 30 million, 40 million, $50 million.
Yeah, that's really, really impressive, Brent. It's awesome. And yeah, and all that visibility you're talking about. So there's some visuals over top of green in our world. So that's where you've got supply that's not being paced to actual demand and usage, and lots of great visuals within the solution that we'd be happy to show you at some point for those of you joining us on the call today. And then Brent, talk to us a little bit about, I know those bills of materials, you've got super deep BOMs. So talk to us a little bit about kind of that excitement and what you were happy about with the bill of material blowouts in Intuiflow NetSuite.
Yeah, so if you've ever tried to look at a BOM and say, what do I need to build this product in NetSuite? It's nearly impossible. You have to run like 6 different Excel spreadsheets if you like Excel. You can download the BOM, you can download the on-hand quantities, you can download the open purchase orders, or in Intuiflow, you can see right here, this is an example of a BOM. It's an indented BOM. You can see, like, you can't read it really well, but it says location, supply type. So it lets me know, is it a make, is it a buy, and what location it is at. The next one is the quantity. Quantity on the BOM. The next one is the total quantity that is needed on the BOM. The next one is on hand, and then you have your lead time on here as well. And I have a description, so I can if you wanted to, you can put this in Excel, and
Stop selling Excel, Brent. Stop selling
you can
Excel.
immediately tell what you're short, or you can scroll down and you can actually see what items you're short on this BOM. Another little cool thing that you have, you can see the little green, yellow, red flags over on right underneath the expand all on the BOMs.
Yeah.
So that is that tells you if it's a buffered item or a non-buffered item. So
Right.
one thing, Wally, you and I really didn't even talk about this, but it's really neat for me is, we talked about safety stocks and min maxes, I think, earlier. There is no need to set safety stocks. Intuiflow will set your buffer stock for you based on, I guess maybe another piece that's interesting too. Before I go that far, you can look at history only if you don't have a forecast. So Intuiflow can only look at history if you want it to. You can say, tell me my average daily usage for the past 120 days or 300 days. And you have the ability to do, set these parameters. Or you can do a 50-50. You can say, look at my history and look at my forecasts and blend the two. Or you can say, look at my forecast only. Maybe you're on an upward trend or a downward trend. You can say, look at my forecast only. And Intuiflow will adjust the buffer inventory that you need to keep on hand. So you're not trying to manually go and calculate min maxes or safety stock levels. Great tool.
Yeah, and that's the other, one of the many big wins for looking at things in this DDMRP buffering logic, just like Brent called out and highlighted, right? So there might be areas or parts of your product portfolio that you have to run off of a forecast, and you want to size the buffer based off of forecasted rate of use because you've never used it, you've never sold it, you've never built it. Or, if you want to pace your supply order generation to actual rate of use and actual shipments out the back door, because you know your forecast is highly inaccurate and that you're going to be dealing with variation all over the place. So lots of flexibility here. So there's, we don't come out to claim to be a silver bullet, but what we want to be is flexible to our customers and flexible to the environments, because things happen, right? And things change. So really good, Brent. And then I think I got one more for you. This is the color-coded workbench that you were talking about with the planning priorities. So I think that was, I know you talked about this just a little bit. Any other comments here before I go to kind of some of your other tips and tricks here?
Yeah, no, this is exactly where you would go. So this is your PO generation or your work order generation platform, I guess, or not platform, but screen. So you see the little check marks on the left hand side is yes, I want to create a purchase order or a work order for this, and you can see the red. It prioritizes what should be handled first, what should be handled next. If you're less than lead time, it's going to show up red, pink. We had this conversation yesterday. I'm colorblind, so I think it's pink. And I think Wally agreed that it's pink, but and then like the next one is yellow, right? Those are items that need to be ordered that is getting very close to lead time if you don't order it. And then the next color is blue. Blue is over the top of green. So that means you just have excessive inventory and it won't show up. But click those check marks and there's a button up above that says generate orders. It will create a purchase order instantly for you.
Yeah, really, really cool. And then again, back for the folks on the call that aren't familiar with us, so this is the accept recommended orders page for your buyers or planners. This is a list of supply orders that have been generated. And like Brent called out, there's prioritization based on the buffer penetration that starts to occur. But from a buyer or a planner, it's really nice because you have one area where you know that these are the items that absolutely need my attention today, and they're in a nice priority for you. The order recommendations respect mins, maxes, rounding values, all that good stuff. So if you've got an MOQ, you're not going to get some wonky order recommendation that's not respecting that. The order recommendations will always respect that. All right. A couple last things here for you, Brent, and then hopefully we can stop and take a couple questions. Any tips and tricks for people that are maybe in this space, that are going down this, maybe things that you ran into that you'd like to share with the group?
Yeah. So the number one bullet point, data validation. If you don't validate your data and you're not concentrated on making sure that your data is correct, you'll be frustrated.
Sure.
Work with the Algo team. They will help you walk through that in that implementation phase of helping you to understand where there is potential data discrepancies.
Oops. Did we lose Brent? Did we lose you guys? Sorry, welcome. Are you there? Looks like we lost Brent. Okay. All right. Thanks, Sanjeev. I appreciate that. Yeah. And let me just wrap up here. It looks like we lost Brent to a technical difficulty, but I think you heard, data validation was something that he and the project team from Algo went through quite a bit. I think Brent's quote was that they thought they were in a good position with data, but they needed to do some additional homework. The other thing that Brent had shared with me previously is that, to be sure that there's not competing projects and priorities, that this does need to be a focus, right? We're touching the heartbeat of the business, which is the supply chain. And if you've got conflicting priorities, that can be very frustrating for your project team. And then when we started, Brent did a great job of empowering his group and getting buy-in. We don't want to go down a path where, people are putting their foot on the brake under the desk, even though they're nodding their head yes. It's a big change, and you're starting to really impact what people's work looks like from a daily basis. Okay. A couple other things Brent shared. Hopefully he'll join here at some point if he can. Brent shared that Flowco launched a IPO at the beginning of January of 2025. Super exciting. And then as well in just March of this year, they had another acquisition of Valiant. So Flogistix, Flowco, the entire kind of portfolio continues to grow and expand, and we're really excited to partner with them. And Brent had mentioned that we're actively in discussions with, continuing to work with them and add additional locations to their Intuiflow project. A couple last things here, and then I'll see if there's any questions. So this was a quote from Brent that I'll let you read and fill out there and see. So any questions from the group? Anything that I could try to answer for you? Unfortunately, yeah, it looks like we lost Brent, but anything I can answer for you in the meantime. If not, let me go ahead and share this with the group. So Brent mentioned a simulation, and as part of our pre-sale activity, we are able to pull some data from your NetSuite instance and then show if you were to leverage this DDMRP logic, these dynamic buffers. Are there inventory optimization opportunities? Should we be carrying a little more of this, a little less of that, right? And those are great discussions that we get to have with customers. It's data for us, and you're living in your business, but it's very enlightening at times because we start to see data gaps potentially, like Brent mentioned, or we get to see, hey, there's a really good opportunity for you to reduce inventory, maybe in this product grouping. So we would love to talk to you more about that if you'd like to hear information. And then otherwise, I'll see, are there any other questions for today? Give folks just a second. Oh, looks like I actually have a question. Let's see, one for Brent. Which roles save the most time with Intuiflow versus NetSuite? Okay, great. Yeah, great question, Sanjeev, and I can share this with Brent and maybe we'll get a public response back. But so, buyers and planners are our core. Those are the folks that are going to be really living the day of the life of the planner's workbench and supply order. And so Brent had shared that all of his team was going through a bunch of different spreadsheet exercises, many times coming up with different answers because their priorities were different, maybe because they were in different segments of the business. So in most installs, that's where we see people get a lot of time back. Because we're native within NetSuite, as soon as NetSuite and the business is running, things are changing. And we want to be sure that we've got supply orders in place when they need to be there. But great question. Okay. All right. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day for everybody. So like I said, if you would like to talk to us a little bit more about our NetSuite native solution and our offering, we'd be happy to do that with you. There should be a link down in the chat or on part of the information where you can contact us. But thank you so much for joining today. Unfortunately, we lost Brent there a little bit early, but thanks so much. And thanks to Brent for spending some time with us today. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.